Thank you everyone for attending this extraordinary meeting of the Council. As before, please note that the meeting is being live streamed. We now move into the formal business of the meeting. Can we take the notice convening the meeting as read?
Agreed.
Thank you. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have apologies from Councillors McDonagh, McKeith, Mordy and Dorothy Truman. And Councillor Mann.
Madam Mayor, apologies from Councillor Samuels.
Councillor Samuels, thank you.
Madam Mayor, apologies from Councillor Bernacle as well.
Sorry, Councillor.
Apologies from Councillor Bernacle as well.
Do any members have any interests to declare? Thank you. We move on to the business, which is the review of council size and ward boundaries, and I now call upon the leader to move the approval and adoption of the report.
I so move, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Leader, do you second the report?
Second the report, Madam Mayor, and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Leader, would you like to speak to the report?
Yes, Madam Mayor, if that's okay with you. Look, every 20 years this report gets done on councils in England and Wales to confirm that ward sizes, council member numbers are appropriate for the next 20 years. Now, I've been very pleased with how councillors have engaged with the team doing this on behalf of the government, because it's ultimately their decision, it's not ours. 46, I think, councillors returned the survey, which gave a proper number for the team to base their decisions on. And I am just surprised that both the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives want to reduce the number of councillors based on that report. If you've read the report states categorically that 75 is the correct number of councillors that the city needs currently and going forward. When you read the report and you see the expectation of the impact on housing and new economic model that we're building, our population is going to grow. Now, we have had a reducing population, not huge, but sufficient, that it has dropped us by a few thousand since the last time this was done. Now, the model going forward shows quite clearly that we're about to address that. What has sustained our numbers has been older people living longer. But the housing numbers being built for young families, and as I said, the businesses that we're bringing into the city to give jobs, leaves no doubt that we will end up with a population at or about, thank you very much everyone, 290,000. Now, the report also stipulates from engaging with the councillors who did the feedback that 2/3 of them feel that they're fully engaged with the report, with the work they do as a councillor at the moment. And 1/3 of councillors feel that they're too busy. Now, if we've got a population that's growing and a workload then on councillors that is increasing, and councillors themselves are saying, the vast majority of them, I think one councillor said they had plenty of time. I'm not going to guess who that is. But if we've got an increasing workload through circumstance, population, the economy, and councillors themselves telling us that they're busy and getting busier, the argument could have been put forward, as Councillor Millen tried to make mischief with, for more councillors, not less. But we took the sensible view on this side of the chamber that 75 councillors is sufficient. Though I expect in 20 years' time, I'm sure we'll have to look at that, because I think there'll be a great deal more pressure on councillors then than there are now. So this side of the chamber will obviously be supporting the report and hoping that that side of the chamber supports it fully. There is absolutely no logic for reducing numbers of councillors other than opposition parties trying to pay party politics with it because they somehow think that fewer councillors is good for them, or that they're trying to cut council numbers and therefore budgets, and I can see the local leaflets now. So that's very disappointing because this is a very serious piece of work, and I was hoping people would use the outcomes from it sensibly, and until the very last minute, I believe Councillor Mullen and the Conservatives were of the mind that 75 councillors was what we needed now and would take going forward. And then they saw the Liberal Democrats going for fewer numbers and bottled it to join in with them so they could dance on the same bit of ground, which is very disappointing, Madam Mayor. So I'm hoping everybody will support the report and it will be unanimous, and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I understand that Councillors Mullen and Edgeworth have indicated they wish to speak on the report. Is that correct? Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on the report? Thank you. Councillor Mullen, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I will just remind the Leader that the first time it came to Council and the last time I did say that the Conservative group was open to a reduction in the number of councillors. We didn't make our minds up at the last minute. I do, though, want to separate out the difference between the working group and our participation in it, principally James and I, and political party views. I pushed back a little bit against something Councillor Edgeworth said, or what I think he said in the last meeting of the working group, because it genuinely has been a cross-party group, and the findings that the council officers who have worked on this came to were based on a variety of views that we put forward. And I think, just to add some nuance to what the Leader has said, it's not as clear-cut to say that we need to stay at 75. Throughout the series of working groups we had, it was actually quite difficult to justify not reducing the numbers. In fact, in the third meeting, we were actually thinking to ourselves, how do we justify keeping 75? And Lindsay Dixon had to go off and look at future projections for the number of people who are likely to live here in the future. So based on current numbers, there was a solid argument for reducing the number of councillors. And he said that that was made on a party political basis by his opponents. It was actually made also by Michael Mordy, who he may consider an opponent, but is nonetheless a Labour councillor. And Michael brought the data to the meeting and made the case that there was a logic behind reducing the number of councillors, and he tried to make that point again at the last meeting of the working group. He did. He tried to make the point at the last meeting of the working group, and Councillor Tye and Councillor Rowntree interrupted him and said, and I've written it down, there's no need to discuss this any further. We've already decided at Labour group. The Labour group was not in charge of deciding what the outcome of that would be. That was the purpose of the working group. And then to be told by a Labour councillor afterwards...
Point of clarification, Madam Mayor?
Certainly. Thank you.
I believe that my colleagues were just pointing out the Labour group position for the discussions, not trying to suggest that that was the overriding position for the meeting. Councillor Mullen, as you well know, stop trying to be clever.
I have to try.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. I'll not repeat what Councillor Doyle has just said. Well, that may well be the case, but obviously I was there and you weren't, so I know exactly what point came across.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. I was at the meeting and I was reminding Councillor Mordy of the Labour group's position. I think, by his own admission, Councillor Mullen said what his position was, because throughout the course of that discussion he said 75 councillors until his Conservative group told him otherwise.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam. I missed the higher pitch end of that, but I will remind you, the Conservative group has said twice in public in council meetings that we were open to a reduction in the number of councillors. And the point that I wanted to make here is that there is a separation between the working group, and we don't question the legitimacy of that at all. We fully accept that the position the council has arrived at is a legitimate one based on the discussions that were had, that nobody has been tricked into coming to a different conclusion that accurately reflects the discussions that took place. However, there were only 2 of us on there at any given time, and political parties are entitled to put in separate submissions, and the Conservative group will be putting in another submission on the basis of data provided by the Council during the course of those working groups to say that we do think there should be a reduction. Before Councillor Miller raised his point of order there, I was just going to say that another member of his group has commented to me that in addition to deciding on 75, they've already apparently drawn the boundaries as well. And I would just offer colleagues a warning as to what has just happened in North Tyneside, where the council and the Labour group tried to put forward very obvious political gerrymandered boundaries where they cut full Conservative voting polling districts out of wards. And the Boundary Commission saw through it to the extent that they have accepted in full the Conservative group submission. So we need to be careful when drawing boundaries to make sure they do actually meet the criteria the Commission is looking for and aren't explicitly political. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Edgeworth, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to put on record our thanks to the officers working on the report. The bottom of page 9 of the report required quite a lot of rewriting because that detailed the political makeup of the council, which has changed quite a lot during the course of this process. And a thanks to the Labour group for inviting us to the working group. It seems some other working groups at the moment are only comprised of Labour councillors, so it's nice to have a seat at the table, unlike the elected members' safety review or other reviews. And it was interesting to see how things played out during the group. Obviously, the leader saying he would love 100 councillors. It was nice to see Michael Mordy trying to deviate from the Labour group thing, getting quickly shot down by Phil Tighe and Claire Rowntree. And it was also interesting to see the Conservatives saying at the start of the process there was an argument for an increase to 78 or keeping it 75, and then, as Graham Miller said, they seemed to do a panicked U-turn when they realised that the Liberal Democrats were going to do the decent thing and argue for a reduction in the number of councillors. And as ever, where the Liberal Democrats lead in providing a consistent, credible opposition to this Labour group, the Conservatives are desperately trying to play catch-up, but there we are. I think the case for a reduction in councillors is clear. People across our city won't forgive us if we don't take this chance to cut the number of councillors and the cost of doing politics during this cost of living emergency. There hasn't been any public consultation, but I think that people will agree with the Lib Dems if they were asked that the number of councillors should be cut. And things that the council have changed dramatically since the 75 figure was first set. The role of councillors not in the cabinet has been downplayed and diminished over a lot of years by delegations to cabinet and officers and the reduction in number of committees. A large amount of areas that were the responsibility of the council have now been moved to other organisations like Gen2 or academies. Some positions seem pointless to us, like deputy cabinet members. They're just an excuse to give the majority group some extra SRAs. The council could easily function without these positions. We have aldermen who can and do assist with mayoral duties. As pointed out on page 17 of the report, the planning committee regime has been reduced from 4 committees a few years ago to just 1 now. The leader consistently argues that this arrangement works well. And if that's true, then it's clear that the regulatory functions of this council can be carried out with fewer councillors. Similarly, scrutiny committees work well even when some members rarely or never attend or don't speak. And a better allocation of appointments to things like outside bodies could mean that these posts could be filled with fewer councillors if they were shared out more equally. The number of people employed and the expenditure of the council has fallen in recent years, and casework is easier to report and follow up with technology. And hopefully the Smart City agenda will make this easier for councillors in coming years. So it's our group's belief that it's really indefensible to recommend keeping 75 councillors instead of taking this opportunity to reduce the number. So we'll be voting against this because we believe that the number of councillors should be cut. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Leader, you reserve the right. Do you wish to speak?
I think the leader's fully laid out our position on the report. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Leader, do you wish to exercise your right of reply?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Edgeworth. I can talk to Councillor Edgeworth and he doesn't act like the class sneak and then try and use my words or my colleagues' words against us from meetings which are meant to be, you know, what they're about. right? And I'm getting severely hacked off, Councillor Mullen, with you constantly doing this, by the way. I have no problem with you disagreeing, or you disagreeing. Yours was a political switch. They've almost got the high ground on. That's what they've always argued for, right? So I can accept that. I don't agree with you, because if you cut the number of councillors, we've got 60% of the councillors here. We still have 60% of whatever the lesser number is. That's not going to change anything politically. It'll just put more workload on those that are left, right? So that's why I disagree with you. It's about workload. And honestly, next time I might ask if we're in a meeting, are you recording this? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We will now vote on the report.
So, could the officer confirm when the vote is live, please? So the vote is running now. So, members, the vote will be closing in a moment. And if we could close the vote now, please. So there are 41 votes in favour, no abstentions and 27 votes against, and therefore the motion is carried.
Thank you. The next item tonight is a report on appointments. Leader, would you please move the report?
I so move the report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Leader, do you second the report?
Second the report and reserve the right to speak.
Leader, do you wish to speak to the report?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, it's all fully laid out.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on the report? No. Deputy Leader, you reserve the right. Do you wish to speak?
Nothing further to add, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Is the report agreed? Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for a very good-natured but productive evening tonight. And that concludes the meeting. Thank you.